Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today's Press Review. I'm Rahim Rahimtullah. In today's program, we'll look at two articles covering the situation in Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula 1 year after it was illegally annexed by Russia. Our first piece today comes from Peter Leonard, writing for the Associated Press. He tells the story of Andrei Shekun, a pro-Ukraine activist who now lives in exile near Kiev after he was forced to leave Crimea after threats to his life. A year ago, Shekun was on the peninsula campaigning for it to remain part of Ukraine. He says he was kidnapped and then his tormentors stuck scotch tape to his eyes and locked him in a dark room. For 11 days, they beat him, shocked him with electrodes and scalded him with burning metallic plates. Leonard goes on to describe the situation today in Crimea, saying that pro-Ukrainian activism 1 year after annexation by Russia has become even more dangerous. He writes, "Last week, a small group of Crimea residents marked the day of Ukraine's national poet Taras Shevchenko by gathering outside his statue in Simferopol with Ukrainian flags. That minor act of defiance earned them 40 hours hard labor." For our second piece today, we turn to Alessa Astakova, writing for Reuters. She says after a year of Russian rule, the initial euphoria has faded in Crimea, with many residents now suffering hardships and fearing for the future. She writes, "Russia's flag is flying across Crimea on the anniversary of what President Vladimir Putin calls the region's historic return home. But foreign investors have fled, the banking sector is paralyzed, and many other residents are struggling to make ends meet." Astakova goes on to list the many challenges facing Crimea in the economic and political sectors, including rising prices, poor infrastructure, and Western sanctions. Ultimately, though, she says the Kremlin is standing firm over the annexation, though the United States and the EU again condemned the takeover of Crimea. Even some Western diplomats say there is little chance Russia will hand Crimea back to Ukraine. And so, with 1 year gone after Russia's seizure of Crimea, life on the peninsula appears to have gotten worse for many residents. What's more, Russia seems to be emulating tactics it uses on the mainland to silence dissent and crack down on pro-Ukraine sentiment. Meanwhile, for all the rhetoric, the possibility of a return of Crimea to Ukraine is looking ever more unlikely. That's all we have time for today. Join us again tomorrow for another press review. In Kiev, this is Ukraine Today.